Hey everyone, it's Warren Hayes here, once again, coming at ya with an AEW Dynamite review. That's how DJs do it, right? That's how they do it on their end. Coming at ya. Hope everyone is having a good day, time, week, month. Look, hope things are going well for you. Thank you for popping in for this week's review. Of course, we're going to be talking about the February 22nd Dynamite. Recording this on the 23rd. So, I've had time to sleep on stuff, so on and so forth. And we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about the episode. But first, like the video if you're watching this on YouTube right now. And consider subscribing to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel as well. All this stuff helps out a great deal. You know it. I know it. And also, if you're listening to this on your favorite audio feed, in your podcast application of choice, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and 5-star ratings on Spotify. Those are also very cool and very appreciated. Just tiny little ways to show a little bit of support, a little bit of love for your boy Warren. God knows I need love. No, I'm not doing that. We're not doing that. This week, I don't know if you can tell, I'm a lot more chill. I feel like I don't do, and maybe someone out there will be in the comments like, no, Warren, you're fucking angry all the time. But I don't feel like I do angry shows all that much, where I start up and I'm in a foul mood. Last week, I was very much in a foul mood. Now, I haven't re-listened to the audio really since then, and I would say that overall, I think I stand by everything I said. I think pretty sure I didn't say anything, libelous, but but no, I was mad as hell last week. This week, a much more composed, much more chill Warren Hayes. For what it's worth, we'll see how nice and calm I remain as we go along. But before we get into the review in and about itself, I think we can touch a little bit on the announcement that was made, Tony Khan's important announcement that was made last night on AEW Dynamite. The one that everyone got really, really upset over because they didn't feel it was important. Look, I mean, regardless of what was going to happen, regardless of what he was going to say, people would have been disappointed. Like, regardless, right? There's just no winning in these types of situations. Maybe the outcome would have been best if he had not promised anything, because that's the thing. Like, this is always the thing in pro wrestling, and pretty much everything, really. It's pretty much basic PR at this point. If you promise things, you create a level of expectation. And in wrestling, particularly, the fans are gauged into, they've been trained, I should say, into getting into hype, believing hype, because that's part and parcel of what you do in pro wrestling, right? So a lot of people got really, really excited about it, and were anticipating all sorts of stuff. I was under the impression this was going to be a Ring of Honor announcement. That would be my guess, but it ended up being the announcement of AEW All Access, which is the quote unquote documentary series. Not exactly that, but you know what I'm talking about. The backstage show that had been reported last fall was being recorded backstage at AEW, right? I think we all kind of forgot about it, and now we're swinging this back around here. We're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Was it an important announcement? No, probably not. I think sliding in an impromptu little commercial during the show, or maybe even like announce it on at Revolution without making a big hurrah about it, I think would have probably gone down better. But of course, this is going to manipulate the discourse for the next few days, because this is all anyone is talking about, whether or not, what is the validity of Tony Khan's use of important here. Did we get work? Look, I mean, promoters are going to promote. That's, I think it is a sign of maturity when you can observe a promoter doing promoter things and just go, well, what are you going to do? Instead of getting angry about it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this was a great tactic. Congratulations, Tony. Probably wasn't. I think it is a little underwhelming from an announcement sense. Look, let's read the press release. I just get this out of the way. Not the whole press release, but the main points here. TBS has greenlit its first new unscripted series of 2023, further expanding its All Elite Wrestling franchise with AEW All Access, a follow doc from the perspectives of the league's biggest stars. The new series, which was just announced during another red-hot episode of TBS's AEW Dynamite, is slated to premiere this March. This news, by the way, was also picked up by Variety. Billed as the ultimate behind-the-scenes experience for fans, the series will feature Adam Cole, Dr. Britt Baker, Sammy Guevara, Tay Conchi, the Young Bucks, Saraya, Wardlow, and Eddie Kingston, along with AEW CEO, GM, and head of creative, Tony Khan. So yeah, it's a reality show, scripted reality. You know how this goes. Each episode will showcase AEW stars as they navigate the week-to-week challenges to remain at the top, and will track the rivalries between talent as they vie for fans' attention. Over the course of the series, viewers will get the chance to follow the contentious lead up to AEW's major wrestling events and matches. AEW Access will complement TBS and TNT's portfolio of top-rated wrestling content, including AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage, respectively. So, yeah. Like, in the grand scheme of things, was this an important announcement? Depends on your perspective. If you are looking at this from a fan perspective, like a pure AEW hardcore, maybe you're like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. Maybe not, but maybe you're excited at the idea of having more AEW content to watch, and that's exciting, right? So that's cool. And ultimately, this is what it is. It's to, create interest from fans. I think this is a good idea. I think it's good. I think it makes sense to me. If you look at it from, a purely, from a colder place, maybe, not necessarily saying that you don't like AEW, but maybe you're someone like me, who isn't necessarily a fan of reality television. I've watched my fair of reality TV. Don't get me wrong. I've touched on it. I can attest to things I like and I don't like in it. And overall, I would say reality TV, it don't do it for me. It doesn't work for me. So I look at this and I'm like, okay, well, cool, but as a wrestling fan, this does nothing for me. But if you want to be an analyst about this, you want to take a look at this how, in a very business-oriented light, this is fantastic news for AEW. And I don't think you can spin this any other way than, well, this is very good. I really don't. You're adding an extra hour of AEW programming on Warner Bros. Discover Bros. I've had so many people out there tell me that Warner Brothers Discovery really doesn't like AEW, that they're not going to be re-signing. There isn't going to be anything new. If they hated the AEW stuff so much, they wouldn't be giving them another extra hour of TV. They're actually seeing this is what this means. And this is what AEW started to do with Roads to the Top. And this is absolutely what they need to do in the current modern television landscape. They are using their franchise to create different levels of content, but create synergy within, while creating synergy within the company. which is why they have, they did the thing with the pranksters. What do they call it? The incorrigible pranksters. I don't remember. Why they do things with Shark Week, do things with Game of Thrones. If AEW was, if Warner Bros. Discovery was so turned off by AEW, they wouldn't be doing this. They'd be letting AEW go the way of Dana White's slap fight. We're just being real here. And, you can come here and say, call me as biased as you want. But if we're being completely 100% objective and we're not letting, emotions and dislikes fill the room, there is no way to look at this and not go, this is a net positive for the business of AEW. An extra hour of programming, which means more money into the coffers, which probably means we might be hinting at something here that Warner Bros. Discovery is probably going to renew with Tony, and they're probably going to get a raise, and a pretty good one. I think this is at least at the very least, this is another positive indicator. I'm not saying that instantly. I'm not going to sit here and speculate about the amount that they're going to get. I'm not going to say, oh, it's good. They're going to double. They're going to triple. I don't know. But what I am saying is that for whatever amount Warner Bros. Discovery renews AEW's contract for, their licensing deal, essentially, it's going to be a raise. And AEW is creating more and more content, which means that they can use it on different platforms. This shit can be clipped. It can be added to AEW programming and vice versa. Dynamite stuff can be added into this. This is a net positive for the company, and it's difficult to see the opposite. I'm probably going to talk about it more on the Mr. Warren Hayes show this week. But they are putting Adam Cole and Britt Baker. I'm so sorry. They are putting Adam Cole and Britt Baker at the forefront of this series. And why wouldn't they? I'm sure you've all seen the promo stills, the promo photos by now. With Adam Cole sitting down and Britt next to him. They look like stars. They look like, affable, charming, charismatic people. We know Adam Cole is that. Britt is like that as well. They're going to, and we keep, Adam Cole, when he made the announcement last night on Dynamite, said, I get to tell my story about the concussion. I'm like, I am actually interested and to see this through. I think this is a compelling tale that I want to see unfold. I want to get into this because Adam Cole is a likable, affable dude. And Britt Baker, that's the point. Now we're talking about Adam Cole's struggle with his concussion. But what about Britt Baker, her own story about her being a pro wrestler, a pro athlete, plus having her own dental practice on the side. We joke a lot about it, in wrestling circles, it's part of her gimmick, whatever. But it is still that is also a compelling story on top of it all. She runs her own business on top of this. This is great material to make someone relatable, affable, that you're like, holy shit, look at what these people are going through. Or inspiring at the very basis of it. This shit is inspiring. Plus, two charismatic, affable people. And you know what? Here's the kicker. Here's the deal here. That there's going to be tons of people out there who are going to be so mad that Britt Baker is at the center of this. Oh, Britt Baker again. It's always about Britt. I am going to ask you all a very serious question. If anyone wants to dare answer this seriously, I'm all open. My ears are completely open. If you are Tony Khan and you are running a promotion and you're running a wrestling promotion and you have this same Britt Baker, you had this evolution happen from the awkward babyface to the mega heel superstar. What else are you going to do? Who else would be the center of attention from your women's division? Who else but Britt Baker? What would you do? What would you do? Because she is the face of that division. She is the superstar. The Jamie Hayter one. Jamie is great, and she has all sorts of great qualities about her, but she is not the level of star, and she does not have the level of charisma that Britt has. Is Jamie a better worker than Britt? Yes. Absolutely. But a superstar goes a little beyond in-ring ability. Has to bring something else. I think Jamie is fantastic, don't get me wrong. I think she is a total package. But the thing here, this is what I'm anticipating, and this is what breaks my heart, because everyone who bitches about the contributions of Britt Baker to AEW and the AEW women's division just doesn't have a clue on how to run a promotion or how a promotion should be run. Because every time I ask, well, who would you push then? Who would be your face of the women's division? I get acceptable answers. People say, you push Yuka Sakazaki. Yuka, again, fantastic worker, super charming, charismatic, but she is not the superstar material that Britt Baker has evolved into. Plus, there's that. Britt is 100% AEW made. She is 100% a creation of that company. In an environment where people say AEW doesn't create stars, they created a superstar, a woman who shows up to football games and is recognized. She's put on TV. She handles herself well. She's charismatic, well-spoken. You push your stars. I have no issues with her being a centerpiece of this show, along with Adam Cole. Elevate them that way as well. Make them have them enter larger consciousness. Let them flex their muscles. They're even adding Wardlow into this. Let me take a little victory lap here. What was I saying 2 weeks ago? Or was it last week? Was that Wardlow got the great promo? What was I saying? What did I say exactly here? I was telling you, Wardlow was sitting here, affable guy in his sit down with JR, right? Affable guy, charismatic, well-spoken. He's flexing his star power. What do you know? He's going to be added to this show. Victory lap for Warren Hayes, once again. I was telling you guys, Wardlow's flexing here. He's showing something that we haven't seen before. This guy's going to be a star, and he's going to be one of the faces of this show. You got Eddie Kingston in here for the reality, because Kingston has value on a whole other level than Britt, than Wardlow, than Sammy, than Ty, than anyone else. Because he's got a whole other energy, a whole other vibe. It's all about the grit, the humanity, the realness of it. I'm hyping myself up talking about this show. Frankly, I think there's a lot of good. I think there's a lot of good here. I don't know if it's going to be for me, but I'm going to check it out. I'm absolutely going to, just like I did with Roads to the Top. I'm going to watch an episode, and it's got an episode to win me over, or at least keep me curious. That's all it needs. But I'm telling you, let's just wrap this up and move on to the review. Again, I'll probably talk about this more on Tuesday on the podcast proper, but this is one of these events where you, as a consumer of wrestling media, hey, how you doing? Do you want to pop into someone's podcast? You want to listen to someone? You want to read someone? You want to get your information, your thoughts, the pulse of the business, whatnot, and you tune in and you select a few, right? This is one of these circumstances where you can absolutely see who has a finger on the pulse and who is just like spouting nonsense. Because I promise, if anyone is sitting here trying to convince you that AEW getting an extra hour of unscripted programming is a bad thing, anyone who tries to argue this from beneath is not worth your time. If you are a lover of the game of pro wrestling and you like to observe, you like to understand, make sense of what's going on, you want to see the connections, you want to see how business happens in the 21st century on television, this is where you have to turn to proper sources. Because anyone who is painting this in a bad light is not seeing the full picture. You can be critical of it. That's not the issue. You can see the good sides, you can see the bad sides. But anyone who's just outright burying this is not worth your time. And you should stick to the best D-list podcaster out there. That is me. Let's talk about, then, AEW Dynamite. February 22nd from the Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona. Good crowd they had there. Very excited for it. But so even before we get into it, let's just have an overview of the updated Revolution card. Of course, MJF, Bryan Danielson, 60-minute Iron Man match for the AEW World title is still the main event. The 4-way tag team title match for the AEW tag team titles between the Guns and the Acclaimed and TBD has had one TBD be done. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal have been added to the mix. Samoa Joe will be defending the TNT Championship against Wardlow. Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley in his Texas Death Match. And then we added 2 matches last night. Jamie Hayter will be defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Ruby Soho and Saraya. I'm sure you know my feelings on that. We'll talk about it. And Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks is also a part of the card. And frankly, I can't see many more matches being added to this. I'm being upfront with y'all. The main event is going to be an hour, unless they completely swerve us. But the main event is going to be an hour. Again, unless we go right into the wee hours of the morning, I don't know. Which I don't think so. But again, this is AEW, so there might be look, I think it's fair to expect Christian Cage and Jack Perry, right? As an extra match here. There's probably going to be the Face of the Revolution ladder match, which I think they could do without. Right? 2-3 more matches tops. I think that's a fair expectation. Fill up and get some stuff on the pre-show. Oh, and and then you'll have the Elite and the House of Black, right? That'll probably be another one. I think that you add those 3 matches, you've got a solid pay-per-view here. Especially when it comes to time. Anyway, let's get into the review. Show started off with the AEW All Atlantic title match where Orange Cassidy successfully defended his championship against Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club. This was match of the night. It's not even close. Not even close. There's nothing on this card that came even close to being as exciting and well put together as this. They have a fast-paced exchange to begin with reversals. Basically, Yuta trying to get all grapple wrestle with Orange Cassidy, but Cassidy's having answers for everything he's doing. So holy shit. OC even uses the seatbelt. And this is to a point where Yuta rolls out of the ring and Claudio comes down. Claudio Castagnoli just slaps him across the face. You get in there and fucking win this match, kid. Hypes up Yuta, comes in, bites Orange Cassidy, and lands a lariat. Huge suicide dive as well by Wheeler. And he tosses Cassidy over the timekeeper's table. It's getting brutal, getting violent. We're getting that BCC energy coming out here. Yuta chops Cassidy, some slaps, some strikes. Cassidy tries to do a little funsies, tries to do the shin kicks, but Yuta's not having any of it. But Orange Cassidy lands a drop kick, a Manhattan drop, and an enziguri. Yuta drop kicks him to the floor, ties up Orange Cassidy some more in the ring, has a nice little heat segment. Cassidy rolls away from dodging a slap, goes for a satellite DDT, but it's blocked by Yuta, who hits a brain buster instead, and a backdrop suplex. Cassidy hugs him. Wheeler doesn't want any of that. Misdirects into a German suplex by Yuta, and then a German suplex by Orange Cassidy. Seatbelt by Wheeler Yuta. Cassidy kicks out. Then they start strong styling each other. Big strike exchange in the middle of the ring. People are up on their feet. They're into this match. Cassidy back body drops him onto the apron. Diving DDT to the floor and a satellite DDT as well. Wheeler Yuta lands a stuffed pile driver. Goes for the hammer and anvil elbows. Orange Cassidy gets out of it and does a series himself. Lands an orange punch. Yuta kicks out. Lands the beach break. Yuta kicks out again. But a broken Wheeler Yuta's on his knees. He's begging Orange Cassidy to bring it to him. Cassidy lands an orange punch. And there you have your win. Great match, honestly. And again, like, this is another situation where it's like Orange Cassidy is a versatile professional wrestler where he can he and Yuta are friends and they have shared experiences. They've wrestled each other so many times. Like, if my expectations were high for this match, they nailed it. If it had been anything less, I would have been disappointed, because they have the history, they have the history, the chemistry between each other to make this happen. If it had been anything else, this would have been a bummer, but it wasn't. It was a fantastic match where, once again, as I was saying, Orange Cassidy is a versatile professional wrestler. As much as he's beloved for his personality, his character, if you may, there's matches where all he does is the yucks and does the comedy spots to the delight of everyone in the audience. And I'm not trying to separate myself from this. I enjoy some Orange Cassidy in goofy mode, but when it's time to turn it on, when it's time to flex the wrestling muscle, that's what makes him different from a lot of comedy acts that you see in pro wrestling. Where it's like, it's never really time to work. But when it's time to work, Cassidy turns it on and we get great stuff like this. You get to see sides of him. You get to see his chain wrestling. You get to see the intensity. This was good stuff. Very, very, very strong match from these two guys. After the match, Orange Cassidy offers a hug, a best friend's hug, to Wheeler Yuta. But Claudio comes down again, and he does one of these. He points at him and says, "Come here, heel." It's like, "Come, you get the fuck over here." Like, ooh. And this is this is a discourse that really annoys me. And it's like, oh, I guess they're turning heel. It doesn't mean they're turning heel. Finally the BCC's turning heel. What do you mean finally? Their whole thing has always been, we are ass kickers and we don't give a shit. And it gets them over, gets them cheers. And there has pretty much always been tension on different levels within the BCC, and it doesn't mean that they can't exist as a faction, and it definitely doesn't mean that suddenly just because one guy is being a little severe towards another guy on his crew doesn't necessarily mean that they're instantly turning heel, and I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. Now, have they set the seeds for Wheeler Yuta eventually leaving the BCC? Absolutely, we've got something here. Does that mean that this is necessarily the progression, the story that we're going down? I don't know. And it might be a couple of years still until we get some kind of true resolution here. Because if anything, this type of story is very reminiscent of what they do in Japan, where they set not stories, but they set seeds to a story. And the culmination of it, the resolution of it, doesn't come down the line until further down a person's career. This could take a while before we get any type of resolution. This might just be an element to be used later on when Yuta and Orange Cassidy inevitably fight again. And it might not be in a month, might not even be next quarter. It might be next year. Who knows? Or maybe they are going to press down on the gas a little bit on this and give ourselves a little BCC breakup tale here with Wheeler Yuta. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's like, oh, they're turning heel. Grow up. Jesus. Evil Uno is backstage with Hangman Adam Page. He says all he ever hears is that the Dark Order isn't on Page's level, and he asks Hangman to stay out of the match with Mox tonight. Page acquiesces. Then we get into absolute Ricky Starks, who hits the ring. He's got a microphone. He gets, he says he gets the right to do it. He loves to hear people cheer for him, but he doesn't, he's not going to push his luck because he doesn't want to get in trouble for going over time. He gives a nice little grin to the heart cam. Says Chris Jericho doesn't want a rematch, and he accepts that. So he's going to move on and open up an open challenge for a match at Revolution. Chris Jericho arrives, and they do the whole Judas introduction. They do the whole sing-along thing with the audience, which I thought was a little weird, because Jericho just stays at the top of the ramp, and, the Judas sing-along is quite long. And I get you want your crowd to be happy. Like, don't get me wrong. I just thought it was weird that in the meantime, Ricky Starks is in the ring this whole time emoting. And I'm like, this is a little weird. And no, you don't have Ricky Starks go cut the music, because that would be a heel move. I think Chris Jericho should have done that. At some point where people start, before you get to that part, where everyone, I become, and that part, Jericho should have cut the microphone. All right, cut the music. That's enough. Get some boos from the crowd. Anyway, that's just me. He says he sees what Ricky is trying to do here, trying to bait Jericho into another match. He's a smart guy, you see. Jericho says he beat him once. And congratulations, that's a career highlight. It's never, ever going to happen again. Jericho says he can beat Starks anytime, any place, anywhere, but it won't happen because he's a flash in the pan. He's not on Chris Jericho's level. Pretty Peter Avalon's music hits. And he's like, oh, you're not going to take the contract? Fine, I'll take it. And I thought that was great. I thought that was fantastic because it's like, look, if you're not going to take it, I'm jumping on this opportunity to... I want a pay-per-view bonus. Sign me up for Ricky Starks kind of thing. I think this was very good, and it establishes, that Ricky Starks is someone that people want to fight. He's got an aura about him. But Jericho's like, what the fuck are you doing? And he, gives him the Judas effect with that spiky jacket. Bold move by Pretty Peter Avalon. And Jericho's kind of offended at this point that Starks was ready to let this happen. Just Peter Avalon, of all people, right? Take the challenge. What was this about? Jericho gets in the ring and he says that, it says that this is what happens with an open challenge, and maybe he should take the contract and embarrass his stupid ass. Stark tells him, well, you can sign it, but we all know what's going to happen. The Jericho Appreciation Society are going to be around him again, and they're going to interfere. And he says, this is the Chris Jericho who was the first AEW World Champion and who beat two legends in one night. Right? He didn't say the names, but we know who we're talking about. And he said, Chris, do you really need the Jericho Appreciation Society to beat Ricky Starks? Jericho asks, if he thinks, Jericho asks him, do you really think that I can beat you one-on-one? Ricky Starks says, I absolutely believe you can beat me one-on-one. Let's find out kind of thing. That's not what he said, but that's what it meant. Jericho's like, you're damn right I can beat you, because I'm the best to ever do this. He says, I'll sign the contract and I leave it at the stipulation that JAS are banned from ringside, except I don't have a pen. Just so happens Ricky Starks has one. Hands him the pen. Jericho takes it with a list of Jericho click. Makes it official for Revolution. Nobody outsmarts the Ocho is what he says. Starks shrugs at first, but then gives the biggest shit-eating grin to the camera. Played to Jericho's ego. I think it's good. I still think, first of all, did they just slip a contract signing? Did they just slip me a contract signing? Is this what happened? Jesus. I got fooled. Can you believe it? They slipped some paperwork, some wrestling bureaucracy on my TV without me realizing it, without me knowing it. Well played, Tony Khan. Anyway, like I said, Starks was pretty good here, and here's the thing. I still think Ricky Starks last week should have come out. He should have been piss and vinegar, should have been mad that the Jericho Appreciation Society fucked with him. This was good, but I think we could have built on this a little more. But this was good. We got the match. Next, we had the Acclaimed defeating the tag team of Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. This was fine. And I mean, essentially, this was an enhancement match for the Acclaimed. Make them, hang on to their heat going into the pay-per-view. It was all right. Well worked. Lee gets beat up until Big Bill steps in, and then the heels get a heat segment. The guns come out. Bowens lands a Famouser on Lee. He gets the hot tag, of course. Bowens lands a Famouser on Moriarty. Kicks on Big Bill, but Big Bill boots Bowens. The Guns attack Billy Gunn on the floor, creates a bit of a distraction. Lee lands the Fang on Bowens. Bowens lands the Arrival, though. Mic drop by Caster, pin. Let's move on. Tony Schiavone is up at the top of the stage, and he welcomes Christian Cage for an interview. But as Christian Cage is coming out, Jungle Boy Jack Perry runs him from the, I was going to say the face tunnel, but it's not a tunnel anymore, but from the babyface side of things to a big reaction from the crowd, and he beats the shit out of Cage. He goes backstage and he comes back out with a pair of chairs, and Jack is feeling this moment. He's very good in this moment, and he wants to concerto Christian Cage, but he can't bring himself to do it. Of course, Cage, he uses all this hesitation to punch Jack in the no-nos and bashes him with the chairs, grinding Jack's face onto the chair, smashing it over and over again. Perry blades. Look, you know what this says to me? We're continuing this little story. Christian Cage, he's got the killer instinct. He's ready to do whatever it takes to win. Jack Perry, he's still conflicted. They alluded to it on commentary, right? It's like, former mentor and so on and so forth. I'm like, okay. But Jack Perry, too much of a good guy. too much of too white meat here. He's not ready for this. He's not ready to be on the same level as Christian Cage. Does he need to be on the same level as Christian Cage? That is also a good story being told here. He's been around the business up and down. He's like, I know what it takes to win here. Oh, you're hesitating? I'm coming in for the kill. Interesting little wrinkle. Good heat segment. I like this. Short, efficient. Next, we had Saraya defeating Skye Blue. I don't know, man. I talked about it last week, and I want to be hopeful, and I want to cross my fingers that, this very iffy, bad creative decisions that were made in regards to Saraya's arrival and, and everything that ensued can be, hopefully they can all be fixed. That there can be some kind of balm put on all of this to make it better. But I'm losing hope. I said it last week. I'm starting to feel like Saraya's return was ill-advised. That Tony was sold a bill of goods here. Because, look, I understand this was like the match was under 5 minutes. It was meant to be a squash, but even here, Saraya didn't look great. And some of the things that I had brought up when she returned, a few of the things that I was wondering, one of them being, will she be able to let go of the WWE house style under which she wrestled for the majority of her career, at least in her stardom, right? Will she be able to let that go and be able to transition to AEW, which is, regardless of what you want to say, AEW fans are more keen to work rate than anything else. Because this match was dead, man. This was dead in the water. Huge pops for Skye Blue when she would actually do wrestling moves. At Saraya, I'm starting to lose hope, man. I'm not gonna lie. And it sucks because look, and I still stand by this. I think pro wrestlers should have the chance to go out, wrap up their careers whichever way they want. I think the way that Soraya was treated by WWE towards the end was shitty. I think she should have been given another opportunity to mix it up in the ring, and I am convinced that this is one of the reasons that brought her to leave WWE. Because they were like, no, we got nothing for you. Or it's like, oh, no, our doctors say you can't return. And for that, I am very partial to Saraya being like, dusting herself off and being like, you know what? I am taking control of the latter part of my career. But so far, this has been so iffy, and there have been outright misses. It's very strange to me. So then, after the match, Ruby Soho comes out. And she does she comes out, the heels are coming back up. The heels being Toni Storm and Ruby and Saraya, excuse me. They're coming back up the ramp, and Ruby Soho comes out. So they sort of meet halfway, but Ruby is ignoring them too, and she's doing, the belt sign around her waist to Jamie Hayter. And that's a little later on. Then we get the promo from Jamie Hayter backstage saying that, sure, I'll give Ruby a shot, but I also want to give Saraya a shot. Triple three-way, don't call it a triple threat, at Revolution. And that just deflated me completely. I think this is a poor ass decision. This is terrible booking, and I don't like it. I can't be behind this. Y'all know how I feel about multi-women matches for titles. I think they devalue more than anything else. I don't think it's interesting. There's a lot of tropes and a lot of people fall into them, and I think it distracts. I think there's been I still think the 4-way for the title should have been just a straight up 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 tag team match. We're having qualifiers, for fuck's sake, to get into a 4-way. Just have qualifiers to have one team challenge, right? Anyway, this here, I don't even know what Jamie's trying to do here. Just Jamie and Ruby Soho would have been perfectly fine. Throwing Saraya into the mix complicates things, complicates the in-ring, complicates the story. I am not into this. And if look, I don't want to talk about carry jobs just yet, but Jamie is going to have to pull some double duty on this one here if we're going to get something out of this. Or maybe this is the one where Saraya just shuts me up and rekindles my faith. I'm like, I am this is a turnoff for me. Complete and utter turnoff. American Dragon hits the ring. Danielson grabs the mic. He says he's going to do everything in his power to beat Maxwell Jacob Friedman for the AEW World Championship. But first, he has to talk about what MJF talked about last week. Talks about, Friedman wanting to break his friend's arm because he hates Bryan Danielson. He put a bounty on his head and tried to injure him so he doesn't make it to the pay-per-view because he hates him. He hospitalizes his mentor, William Regal. Name dropped on AEW, yes. Because he hates him. He wants to understand, why does MJF hate him? Well, MJF comes out and he's much obliged. He says Bryan might have these schmucks twisted, but he knows who he is, who he really is. He's the guy that everyone looks up to. And then he talks about, he being MJF, that he met a girl recently who convinced him that not everyone in the world is bad, who he wanted to start a life with, who he wanted to have kids with. And she left him. FYI, from what I understand, this was a shoot. Don't want to, this is private life business. It's not my thing necessarily. But from what I understand, quite unfortunately, MJF's engagement is off. Apparently, this is a shoot. So he's alone now. And the only thing left in his life that he can trust is the world title. It's the only thing keeping him between him grabbing a fistful of pills and calling it a day. But everyone loves Danielson. Everyone looks up to him and screams yes at the top of their lungs and raises their hands in the air. And if that's not enough, Danielson has something he, being MJF, will never have: a family. He has a smart, beautiful, adoring wife and 2 happy, healthy children, and Danielson takes it all for granted. MJF doesn't just hate Danielson because fans think he's better than him, but because he's had more concussions and head trauma than anyone in this business. Concussion after concussion until he was on the floor having seizures, and he's still in the sport. Every time Bryan sets foot in the ring, he's saying wrestling is more important to him than his family, than his children, taking for granted everything that MJF would kill for. Says he's no different than his worthless, drug-addicted mentor, William Regal, who he gladly sent to the hospital. Friedman says he wants to speak to Bryan's kids, talks into the camera. Danielson warns him not to, but he does it anyway. MJF ignores him. Hey, Birdie. Hey, buddy, it's Uncle Max. He says at Revolution he's going to grab Dada's arm and rip it out of his socket to make sure he can never play with them again. And he's looking up at Bryan while he's talking, right? Trying to see the reaction. Danielson's not going after him. And you can have two hypotheses here. Because Danielson said, don't you dare bring my family into this, right? We'll touch on this in a second. Daniel's not attacking him. Eventually, MJF stops talking to the camera, gets into the ring, and says he's going to give him a present on March 5th, and that gift is early onset CTE. Danielson attacks him on that, and they brawl. A fantastic pull-apart brawl. You've got everyone in here, refs, security, road agents. Max even rolls out of the ring and Bryan blindsides him on the floor. Just great stuff. A fantastic angle. Fantastic. From top to bottom and ending in a fantastic pull apart. How can you not be excited for this? This rules. Everything about this has ruled. From the get-go, from the moment that they were deciding to go down this path for MJF and Danielson's. Now, you can take this two ways. There's two ways you can look at this little wrinkle here. Because I found this interesting. MJF says, I'm going to talk to your kids. Danielson warns him, don't you dare talk about my family. But MJF continues. He does it anyway, and he's looking right into the camera, talking to Birdie and Buddy Danielson. And Danielson's not moving. He's not saying a thing. He's not jumping up. And Max is looking up sometimes towards the ring. He's goading him on. He wants to check out the reaction. He wants to see, is Bryan Danielson coming for me? But no, Danielson is staying in the ring. And when does Danielson come for him? Once MJF is in the ring and starts talking about giving him early onset CTE. That's when he jumps him. Not when he was talking to his kids, but when he started talking about the sport of pro wrestling, when he started talking about, ending his career effectively. That's when Danielson got excited and angry and pissed off enough to attack MJF. So was Maxwell completely off base here by saying pro wrestling is more important to you, Bryan, than your family? This is a very interesting question that was paused here, because people were like, well, why isn't Danielson going after him? He's talking about his kids. There you go. This is the doubt. This is what makes, storytelling in AEW, because yes, there is storytelling, but this is why it makes it so compelling sometimes, because you're left with these questions. You're asking yourselves, is the bad guy right? Is he right about Danielson? Danielson didn't move a muscle. He threatened to attack MJF if he spoke about his kids. But Danielson didn't move a muscle when he did. But when MJF started talking about ending his career with the onset of early onset CTE, then he went straight for him. That is good shit, pal. Then we get the Tony Schiavone backstage interview with Hayter and Britt Baker. We've talked about it already. Keep moving along. Then we get the Revolution Tag Team Battle Royal, where Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal defeated the Lot to get into the battle, the four-way match. I know a lot of people hate this. This Jeff Jarrett run has been a blast. He's not overstaying his welcome. I don't know why people are so mad. It's not as if he's being inserted into the main event and he's, sticking around for hours per week. It's a perfectly entertaining mid-card act with a guy who knows how to make it work. I'm enjoying this. Now, as for the Battle Royal and stuff, look, you guys, again, know how I feel about Battle Royals. I think, most of them are trash and there's not much to talk about. I did write down a few points here. Aussie Open, we're in the Battle Royal just after a couple of weeks of tweeting out on, putting out on social media, hey, you know what? No one's booked us yet, which is a fucking tragedy. That is the greatest oversight of all time. So good on AEW for flying the boys in, giving them some work. Mark Briscoe runs down to the ring to get rid of Josh Woods. And my brain is like, you know, Mark Briscoe is running down. What is he going to insert himself into the tag team battle royal because he is tag team champions? And then I was like, wait, is this good taste or not? Like, I don't know what to think about this. But no, it wasn't that. It was just to take it. But I'll be damned if for a second I wasn't sitting there going, holy shit, he's going to insert himself into the battle royal, isn't he? John Silver does a very long stalling suplex. Butcher gets big eliminations in this match as well. Rey Pheonix eliminates Roosh with a run on the rope PK. We get a bunch of shenanigans towards the end. Jeff Jarrett lands the stroke on Trent. Trent, another valiant effort to get a win for the best friends here. Didn't happen. It's a battle royal. What do you want from me? House of Black get a promo calling out the Elite as a problem in the company. Art imitating life. We also get TK's important announcement. We've talked about that at the start of the show. Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh cut a promo backstage. The Guns arrive and try to strike up an alliance to, you know, take out the competition just to make the match a 2-on-2. I couldn't care less. It's not going to happen. And then the main event, Jon Moxley defeated Evil Uno. I thought it was a fine, well-worked match. It was all right. One of the shortest main events in AEW history, I am pretty sure. This has got to be in the top 5. Just a little over 6 minutes. Uno goes right after Mox. You know, he's fired up for this one. So right as the bell rings, he goes right for it. But he loses a chop exchange. Mox tears at the mask. Uno boots Mox to the floor. Lands a senton atomico to the floor. To a big reaction from the crowd. Got the people behind Evil Uno. But Mox lures him into the steps, stomps the head. Uno blades. And Jesus does he blade. Great visuals again. You know, Uno did say, Jon Moxley will have to kill him. Well, we got close. Uno lands a pair of pile drivers, but Moxley lands in the bulldog choke, and he leans back, and he's yanking on it, and blood is splurting out of Evil Uno's head, off of the bigger hole, right, that was made in the mask. It's just squirting out. Just a crazy ass visual. And it tested, I think, the mettle of a lot of wrestling fans, not gonna lie. It was kind of gross, but also awesome. Dark Order, Uno passes out. Mox wins the match. Dark Order come in to save Uno because Mox is not letting go of the bulldog choke, and people are like, oh, Mox finally turning heel. Look, he has to act heelish here. He's fighting top babyface Adam Page. We don't want to muddy the waters here too much. Mox has to be an asshole. Doesn't make him a heel. Kazuchika Okada was being an asshole over the past few weeks. Doesn't make him a heel. BCC then come out to even out the odds, and Hangman Page runs in and he's got barbed wire in his hand and he punches Jon Moxley right in the mush, and he blades out. He blades, dies. No, he doesn't die. But we came this close, fellas. Lads, we came this close to having a wrestling match, a Jon Moxley wrestling match where he didn't blade, but he ended up blading. The main event was fine. It wasn't, mostly for the angle. Evil Uno Here's the thing. I am very familiar with the work of Super Smash Bros., his tag team with Stu that they had on the indies. I know how dynamic and awesome Evil Uno can be. I don't think we've even seen in this match how exciting he can be as a pro wrestler. A lot of people are like, wow, what a performance. My eyes have been open. This is still just a fraction. Like, they did the violence thing. It was important. It's important to the angle. Mox is trying to bleed out Hangman's friends. We know what this is all about. But, and people, the Senton Atomico was great. The pile drivers were beautiful. Like, everything connected. Uno is a very good pro wrestler who should have been able at this point to wrestle more and flex that muscle more. I still think SSB as a duo, the Dark Order, the OGs, Evil Uno and Stu Dos, they were completely misused. That was a tag team for the ages that they had there that could have been elevated very easily. So this was a good showing by Evil Uno, but he has a lot more in the tank. And I don't know if we'll ever get to see it, because the Dark Order's role in AEW is pretty clear. Doesn't mean I don't like them. I'm just saying it's pretty clear. Anyway, this was all about the angle, still setting up the match. It was fine. I enjoyed this episode of Dynamite because it's building up Revolution. Lots of eventful things happen, even if, let's say, matches weren't all there. Was it a better episode of Dynamite than last week's? Yes, absolutely. Yes, it was. Felt grounded. One outstanding match to open everything up. Like, if you're watching Dynamite for the bangers, excuse me, this wasn't it. But we're building to a pay-per-view. That's what you got to do as well. We're going to wrap up this Dynamite review as well here. If you haven't already liked the video, leave a review, a rating, all that stuff helps out. And I appreciate it. And I hope you appreciated the review as well. And I appreciate you for checking it out. Hope you have a great... you know what? I'm going to be around, by the way, over the next couple of days to do an AEW Revolution preview. Keep your eyes peeled on that. So subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Otherwise, thank you for being here once again. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll see you next time.